Hey folks, welcome to a podcast about Catholic things. This is Eric, the Ambassador of Common Sense, and I'm here with...
Dan, the Ambassador of Nonsense. Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, we haven't seen you since last year, and I guess we've both just been real busy. But we're going to try to get back on schedule so that you're getting weekly podcasts instead of, semi-monthly.
We did pretty well for a while.
We did do well for a long time. Both of us have scheduling things that, okay, I have this weird fear that I turned the game the wrong way. I have to check something while
so check it out.
Test.
Yeah. We learned you got to gain down the mic and gain up the computer.
Yeah. Okay. I did it right. Now I have to get my mic facing the wrong place. Okay. Sorry. The topic today, I don't think we have to define it, but we should anyway, is the term that everybody's using nowadays, red-pilled. And red-pilled comes from the movie The Matrix when he says he offers them two pills. You take the blue pill, you go back to sleep. Tomorrow, everything's going to be how it was. Take the red pill, you're going to awaken to a new truth, and you can't go back. You can't blue pill. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. So, this word kind of, I get, really in the past 5 years, and it's not that old. It was,
yeah,
people started using it long after The Matrix. It was
right. It didn't pick up use right away as a kind of a cultural term like this.
And I think what really did it, I don't know if it came before Trump or after, but it's during Trump's reign that it got popular because people suddenly started to understand that things are not what they've always thought they were. More and more people are getting red-pilled since Trump's, since the day he started running.
Yeah.
More and more people started to see, oh, wait a minute. I always thought of things, and that's basically, hold on, I got to adjust this a little bit. That's basically what it is people live their lives thinking a certain way, and then they're confronted with this kind of an ugly truth that they've always been looking at it wrong, and that things are just not what they've always thought they were. That's what here's the exact definition. Cause someone to have their perspective dramatically transformed, especially by introducing them to a new and typically disturbing understanding of the true nature of a particular situation.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
In a nutshell,
good.
That's pretty good.
And when that situation is, kind of the world you live in, that's pretty dramatic.
It is dramatic. And the problem is that it can cause all kinds of other problems that you wouldn't expect, or maybe you would expect. But being red-pilled, aside from just being startling and stressful, it can also create, obsessiveness. And it can create weird problems for people, I think, like paranoia,
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think for a lot of people, that's why we get, why suddenly flat earthers got real big out of the blue. And it's because I think a whole bunch of people thought of the world a certain way, and then they were red-pilled, and then they just started to think, well, I guess everything's a lie.
Then
so
they
just
decided
question everything.
Not to trust anything. They went from red pill to complete cynic.
Yeah. I think Timothy Gordon called it black-pilled, which is pretty good name.
That's right. I
for
forgot
it.
about that.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between being red-pilled and becoming a cynic, or being black-pilled, or falling for sometimes some pretty outrageous conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And maybe talk about, some of the key people in things like media and politics and religion, and what that ought to mean to us as Catholics. Mm-hmm. In the way we look at the world.
That's a good point, though, because until you just now brought it up, I had not really thought of that dynamic of the black pilling or the going over to full on, like QAnon style conspiracy theorist or flat earther or whatever. I had never thought of that in terms of a sort of the kind of I don't know, what would you call it, emotional defense mechanism to being red pilled. It's like, okay, how do I deal with the fact that a lot of things aren't the way I thought they were? Well, I'll just believe nothing's the way I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then I'll never get fooled again because I don't believe anybody.
It wouldn't be hard to fall into that because you start looking for conspiracies or untruth in every little corner. And when things are the way they appear to be and always have been, you have a hard time believing it.
You suspect
because you don't want to
too.
get fooled again. It's like when a spouse cheats on you, you don't want to get fooled again, so you just stop believing them entirely, and you stop trusting the world around you.
And you go back and question your whole life with them too.
Yeah,
everything up to that point.
Well, was all that other stuff a lie? Was everything a lie? Was there any truth anywhere? And it causes problems. And I've seen it happen to people. I haven't, not necessarily the flat earthers, but people who just tend to question everything suddenly, and then they get to a kind of a paranoia where like they think everybody's after them and stuff like that.
A paranoia like that, or a sort of paralysis where they can't engage society. Yeah. They can't do anything about even the small world around them that they really do have an ability to influence. They just kind of draw away from that as well.
Yeah. So when you see some of these, these preppers who tend to cut themselves off from society altogether, a lot of that's just, it's the trauma from being red-pilled. And to me, it's not an unnatural response. It's just something that we should try to fight.
Right.
In ourselves. Because
now, there have been, let's talk about this for a minute, because there have been preppers for, I'm going to say probably since the Cold War paranoia age, where the duck and cover drills at the schools and that kind of stuff, probably 50s, 60s, whatever. And then even after the end of the Cold War, there were those who continued to believe that there's coming a point where it's all going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So but this is way before the sort of modern last half decade red pill trend, the red pill explosion, you might call it, occurred. Right. I don't think those people are the same phenomena. I think that's just kind of one of those. You're always going to have these various kind of fringe parts of society. They were there when the red pill moment happened. Those various fringe parts of society it suddenly became attractive to people who were being red pilled as part of realizing that, wait a minute, things don't work the way I thought they worked. Maybe this guy really has something.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think a lot of people were... You're right, a lot of this did start in the Cold War. And I think a lot of it is just... they were being encouraged to prep and to prepare for an ultimate disaster where maybe all of your neighbors are going to be dead, and whatever you have in a bomb shelter, that's what you're going to have for a year or 2 years, or I don't know, the rest of your life, I guess, if the whole planet gets destroyed. That was really encouraged, with all the drills that they would run during the Cold War, at least early in the Cold War, before we were even born.
Yeah, yeah. And
you read about them and stuff.
In addition to that, the feasibility of things like space travel and that stuff were becoming available, and culturally, because historically TV was a relatively new phenomenon then too, and so what you had were kind of a spate of paranoia films about things like not TV series type things. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where Earth had been, invaded, and so there's the ongoing battle for Earth. A more recent version of it was that series called V, but they had earlier than that in the 60s these paranoia series, or like we would go out and explore space. Well, then there might be a series about, say, some band of people from Earth that were trapped on a planet and having to fend their way against aliens every day or something like that. Kind of like a twisted version of Gilligan's Island, maybe. I can't think of any titles offhand, but there was a spate.
It was a common theme.
Yeah. And so I think from a cultural perspective, that also helped contribute to at least the acceptability, not necessarily in polite circles, but inside people's minds of being paranoid about stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess aside from all of that, nuclear war was a real possibility.
Yeah, I mean, possible reality.
And so people prepared for that, and people got to be... You even see it like in the old... the first couple seasons of Twilight Zone. There were ones about the way people get obsessed with preparing, and, it became a thing, and that just kind of... Even when the Cold War was still on, but people had kind of stopped worrying about the nuclear war.
Nuclear war specifically, right.
They started worrying about societal breakdowns. I've seen that in various series, like in Taxi and Barney Miller. There were episodes where they had preppers, and that was always what they described. It was Deliverance. He's talking about how the world's going to fail and society's going to fail. I mean, it was the next thing to be afraid of and the next reason to prepare. But yeah, like you said, that's almost a different animal than
right.
What we're seeing now.
Created if those people didn't exist, I don't know what the people who had a hard emotional time handling being red-pilled, I don't know where they would go if these other kind of fringe people didn't exist.
Right, because there's a place for them now that they feel that way. It's acceptable to do these things because plenty of people are doing them. So I don't have to feel weird in preparing for the world to end. But the thing is, I don't think I was ever actually red-pilled, because I don't think we grew up in a world where there were no blue pills. I mean,
true.
Aside from...
We didn't get a daily dose of blue pills at any point in our lives.
Right. Aside from the conspiracy theorists, which there were plenty who were pretty wild.
Out of our circles, sure.
Yeah, but aside from that, it's just that we always saw... The way you hear us talking now, that's how we've always thought. It's never really... I guess maybe the only thing that changed for me really was I didn't understand the degree to which... I'm not even going to call it a conspiracy. The degree to which both the church and the American government are infected with the problem.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how widespread it was and how deep it was.
I didn't understand that, and I didn't understand until some point in my adult life, probably a little while before the red pill explosion. I didn't understand the degree to which people that, everyday people that you meet on the street, either didn't know or didn't care how much things weren't trustworthy.
Yeah, that was a big red pill too, because I always thought, if it was publicized enough, people would be like, oh, wow, this stuff is bad, and then try to band together and do something about it, which people did, but I never understood how much a person would refuse to see the truth.
Yeah.
Would just shut it off.
Or even care when they see it. I mean, I think in many ways, a lot of people are red, being red pilled. There is really an explosion. It's a good thing as far as it goes, but I think what we're also seeing among a lot of people is, what would you call it? A Soylent Green moment, maybe?
Yeah, it's kind of, okay, they're eating people, but this is the way it is, and,
And he's the only one who cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, you got to go watch Soylent Green to understand what we're talking about.
But probably most people have seen it, but Charlton Heston says, they're eating people! Soylent Green is people! And they're all just kind of staring at him like, well, so what?
They're not staring at him in disbelief, they're staring at him in, apathy.
Yeah. It was a weird moment in the movie. That was probably the weirdest moment is the response from everyone else. Because
you felt like, oh, he's done it.
He uncovered this amazing truth.
And then it's like this big letdown. Well, so what?
Yeah, and you got the feeling that nothing's going to change. And you kind of get that feeling now when you see people suddenly understanding, oh, wow, this, some of these things are real, things that I always laughed at. And then, but so what? It's nothing more than a discussion when you're drinking, around at the bar or something,
Mm-hmm.
And as far as, well, maybe we should be fighting this, I don't think it even occurs. Although it did occur to a lot of people because that's what the Trump movement was, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was. But see, even those people, I remember, I've watched Rush Limbaugh or listened to Rush Limbaugh off and on most of my life. And a long, long time ago, I remember him talking about, he talked about the world of law enforcement, of FBI, of politics, and all these things. And he had always just assumed that everyone thought the way he did, that one of the most important things in this country is to maintain this country, and that America is something better than the other ones, and that all the stuff we do, especially government officials and law enforcement officers and federal law enforcement officers, that's how they all think. And he has talked about several times how disconcerting it was when he realized that's just not the case. There's not only people, but a lot of people, maybe even a whole class of people who don't feel that way and don't like America and are actually fighting to harm it. And he specifically talked, one, about law enforcement like FBI, CIA, and two, about the media and how bad it is. I remember every now and then, something would come out. Like, remember the kids in cages, the immigration thing with Trump.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He didn't even know that those pictures were actually Barack's pictures.
Yeah.
But he right away pointed out that this is a created crisis, that this isn't real. And it's not just with that, but he did it over and over again. Every time the media would try to come up with something where really they created, often just outright lied, and he was never fooled by it.
That's a good point. Because he understood, because he had already been red-pilled way earlier in his life, something like that's put in front of his face, and he already knows to distrust it and say, "Wait a minute, that's you're trying to create a reality for me to consume. That's not what's actually real." And he's right again and again and again.
Yeah, I think Rush was like the original red pill. I mean, he was like the prototype.
The prototype red pillar or something.
Yeah, I mean, he was...
Before red pilling was even a thing.
He could always spot these things, and he would talk about it long before the truth actually came out, you know? It would come up, and he never waited to see what other people thought. He would just call it out, and then a week later we'd find out, yeah, he's completely right. 100% right. And that's one of the things that I always admired about him, because nobody else in the media, no public figure was red-pilled the way he was, and he was thinking the way I already thought. And another weird part about this is he had a huge following. He had millions of fans. He had fans who would believe him when he said this stuff, but they would call him or write him and be worried. And for some reason, they didn't see the truth until he pointed it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like...
It's like, guys, don't you get it? He's able to see this truth because of a realization about how things are. Once you latch onto that realization, you can see it too. You don't need him to tell it to you.
Right. And it's easy to see. Anytime the media starts talking about anything, I have never fallen for all of their crap. Yeah. I just never did.
You know, it's kind of funny because I was the other day I was actually I was listening. I was out of town and the TV was on at the hotel in the morning because we were kind of watching for weather, and they're going on and on and on about COVID cases in hospitals.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know exactly what is in hospitals and what constitute COVID cases and other parts of the hospitals, and I don't know the lab. But here's the thing that I do know, and it kind of resolved into sort of a truism that will not fail if you apply it, and it's this: if the media won't shut up about something, it's a false narrative they're trying to sell you.
Yeah.
Likewise, on the other hand, if the media won't talk about something, then there's something there that you ought to know about.
As in, refuse to even address it.
Yeah, that's what I mean by won't. Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that if they won't talk about it, it must be true. It's just that if they won't talk about it, you need to pay attention to it.
It's because there's something there that they don't want you to hear. That there's and here's the thing that you can believe, and this is, I think, one of the red pill, let's say, planks of the red pill platform, if you want to think of a red pill platform. It's not being a loony bin conspiracy theorist to believe that there really is a they when we're talking about this stuff.
That is one part of it. Another part of it, and I think this is what separates being red-pilled to being paranoid. The they is not always a group of people who are in agreement on how to do something. I mean, there wasn't necessarily always a secret meeting where everybody agreed this is what we're going to do. A lot of times,
right.
It's an industry that was created and evolved around certain ideals. And for example, and Rush pointed this out once, and again, it's one of those things I knew long before he pointed it out. He said, Barack Obama did not have to tell his agents, hey, do this and this and this to try to get rid of Trump. No one had to tell these people to do that.
Yeah.
It didn't take a meeting. They knew that this is how they should do it. Everybody was in agreement.
They were in agreement. And not only that they knew this is how they should do it, but because the kinds of people he put in place are the kinds of people who would just take it on themselves to do that anyway.
Right.
I mean, he put people with both the right personality, the right sentiments, the right worldview, as well as the fact that he put people that were at base level corrupt and would use their power to, do inappropriate things. Right.
Yeah, corruption seems to be at the core of this. And the funny thing is, it's not the kind of corruption where, it's not like they have a cause and, for example, communism, and they are fighting for that cause. It's really that it's easier for them to steal and lie under communism,
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not like some of these people probably are not hardcore communists. I don't think Joe Biden's a communist or even a socialist. I just think he knows what kind of government needs to exist in order for him to continue the usury and all the other shenanigans.
Yeah. Well,
and so that's what gets promoted.
Today, maybe this wasn't true 70 years ago, 90 years ago, 100 years ago. But today, 120 years ago, wow. But today, there are two kinds of communists/socialists in the government. There are idiots like Bernie Sanders, who are true believers. The true believers are idiots. They don't really understand anything, and their heads are in, I won't describe where they are. And then there are the people who are communists/socialists because they know that selling that to the people makes the people easier to control and makes it easier for them, the people in government, to stay in, wield, collect to themselves, and make use of power.
Yeah, and they don't have to talk to other politicians in order to figure this out. That whole world is like that.
They don't have meetings. It's just that the job attracts that kind of person.
Yeah.
Same thing with the media.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. The media, starting in the early 60s, developed a certain way. And it kept ratcheting and swinging further and further to the left until we have what we see now. And even, places that were supposed to be conservative, like Fox News, they're not conservative at all. They're just...
that's one of the things that the phenomenon that causes this. You used a good word there, ratcheting, because people like to talk about a pendulum. Oh yeah, well, it's left now, it'll be right later.
Yeah.
The pendulum swings back, whatever. And in a very small scale, these kinds of institutions may have a little bit of movement that looks, so the pendulum must be going back the other way or whatever. Well, no, it's not going back the other way. It's just settling into the next niche, the next groove of the ratchet. But it's actually a ratchet, not a pendulum.
Yeah. And so when you have a, quote, conservative in office or in power or whatever, all that's happening is that it's not swinging back. Or it's not swinging forward as fast as it used to.
Yeah.
It's usually just stops for a short while, if anything at all.
But even so, I mean, think of
But yeah, you're right.
A real ratchet mechanism, it clicks, clips. At each click, you could go back a tiny bit. Well, it's just settling into the groove of the ratchet mechanism. Okay, well, if you want to call that a part of a pendulum, okay, but realize what's really going on here. It continues to move. And that kind of, I can see why then also people would, let's say somebody really understands that, and then they become red pilled and they realize how far it's gone, and they say it's okay. Okay, well, so it's like a ratchet. You're just winding it, but there's a limit to this. You can't go all the way. What is all the way? There's a point at which the tension with human nature, because that's one of the things about liberalism is that it just completely fails to comprehend and address human nature as it is. So the tension with human nature is going to become so high that the whole mechanism is going to burst apart, and then maybe you would get your societal breakdown or whatever. So I could see why maybe some red pillars would see that, okay, yeah, everything you say is true, but it's eventually going to happen anyway. Now, as Catholics, we have some good reason to hope that it won't work out that way. And we'll talk about that at some point too. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that word you used, ratcheting, that's exactly the right word.
Yeah, and if you think about a bolt that you're ratcheting, if you keep going in one direction, it either gets so tight that it breaks,
the head pops off,
or it falls off, and then it pops off, and then it falls apart,
or the thread strip,
and then you can't do nothing with it. I hate it when that happens. Yeah, and it's hard to figure out the difference between someone who's just been red-pilled and someone who has gone berserk with all the conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Catholics are in a unique position to tell the difference, but there has to be at some point they have to just trust in God.
Yeah, I think
it doesn't work if you can't.
Catholics are in a well-suited position. Somebody, Catholics who take their faith seriously, I think they're well disposed to be able to be red-pilled without falling apart and going full on, QAnon.
Yeah. And I gotta wonder, if you're a good Catholic, you have faith that the church is always going to be there, and it's always going to be able to guide us to heaven if we look for it. That's one of the things a Catholic would believe.
Right.
And I don't know if that kind of translates into everything else. Well, it's like, America's going downhill, but it's not so much that you think God is ready to preserve America, but that it's not going to turn into 1984.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where there is no church and no way to find the church. That is one of the promises, is that we'll be able to see it.
Yeah, the visibility of the church. I mean, it may be underground, like it was during the Age of Martyrs, masses in catacombs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We may be headed for, masses in underground caverns. Okay, everybody meet at Buckner Cave for Mass or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But even during that time, two things were true. Number one, if you wanted to become a Christian, you could do it. You could find a way to get there. Number two, the people who were Christians were trying to spread the faith.
Yes. The Age of Martyrs was also the age of the fastest and most explosive evangelization and mission activity.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now, let's talk about some of the... I don't know if we need to address them, but some of the red pill that went too far. For example, the flat earthers. I mean, if you suddenly stop believing in all the things you're being told, and then you start to question something like, well, is the earth even round? I don't know where it is you would look to find definite answers on anything.
That's one of those weird ones. It's kind of funny because the existence of flat earthers has come kind of... let me ask you this. Okay, I know you're getting coffee. I'll wait till you get back. But what I want to know is how long ago you became aware that there are real flat earthers alive today.
Someone close to us suddenly became a flat earther, and I couldn't quite understand that. And I had to look into it to find out, well, how do I even answer this?
Was that the first time you became aware of it as a phenomenon?
Yeah. I mean, I knew, I had heard that there are flat earthers. And, okay, there was a time when I had to do some research for a website, and I had never really taken a whole lot of interest in the sky. And I think it was like galaxies.com or something. Someone owned the website. I had to develop content for it. And so I started looking up all this information, mostly from Wikipedia, rewriting it and putting it on the website. And I'm looking at these pictures, which look really cool, and then looking at the fact that a lot of them are it's not like you could look up in the sky and see this stuff, even if you had a telescope.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, well, wait a minute, how do we know these galaxies? How do we know those are really galaxies? And how do we know these other planets exist the way we're being told? All they look like is stars from here.
Just dots.
For like Saturn, how do we know Saturn has a ring around it? And it was at that time the kids had a little toy telescope, and I thought maybe I can find it. It took me 3 days to find Saturn.
Find Saturn? Wow. But you did.
But I finally found it, and I saw the little rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like amazing.
I was so excited. Oh, there really are rings.
Yeah.
And I started looking into more of that stuff. But it was around that time that I realized that there are people who didn't do what I did and didn't actually look into it. And they have like websites where they go and talk about it. Even though they don't look into it, they still go there and talk about it. I didn't even want to go there because some of the headline arguments I would see were so stupid.
Like embarrassingly stupid.
Yeah, it was like I could never be associated with these people.
I'm embarrassed on your behalf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, but this is all like post-2000 because you're talking about looking at Wikipedia and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So Wikipedia, by the way, I just looked it up, kicked off in 2001, so for a little bit of trivia for anybody. All right, so here's the thing. Back in 1990, I want to say 8, maybe.
Okay, I had just maybe gotten married. There was an internet, but time.
There was an internet, but not Wikipedia. There were search engines. You remember web crawler?
But they were really
like
crappy. Yeah, there was some kind of spider something or other, and
but
they were terrible.
Here's the thing. So around that time, I was thinking about the characterization of people with old religious beliefs as believing in flat Earth and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I developed a hypothesis, just a speculative hypothesis. I said, you know what? I bet that historically, generally speaking, other than maybe like the very ignorant classes of people, but generally speaking, historically, I bet there never was a time when educated people, and I mean, go back, 5,000 years. And I bet there was never a time when educated people actually believed the Earth was flat. And so I set out to research that. Now, that we just said that the search engines were crappy and stuff, but here's the thing. When I went out to try to research that, I couldn't find evidence that ancient peoples believed the Earth was flat. But what I discovered was that there were people alive today who believe it's flat.
Yeah. So, okay, look, if let's say you're not smart enough or you don't take the time to do what I did or what you did. Or maybe you don't know how to do the math to prove that the earth is not flat.
Right.
But you've just started to realize that most of the stuff in the news is not what they say it is. Maybe you're just now starting to get this whole COVID thing. It was all a big sham. Yeah, there's COVID. Yeah, people died from it, but the stress that they put on us was fake. The danger was fake. Put it that way.
It was as much a panicdemic as it was a pandemic.
And people had to. They didn't necessarily have to have meetings, but I think most people knew their role. There were the people who were going to make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And there were people who were going to help them make a bunch of money and get paid off in one way or another. You know, Amazon, don't even talk about the vaccines yet, just Amazon. Amazon pretty much stole every small business in America. They just took all their business by law.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you can't go to the store anymore. You have to go to Amazon.
Governors shut it down, can't go to the store, or mayors shut it down, can't go to the store.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I got to go to Amazon to buy stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it took a meeting to do that, but by now anyone with just even a little bit of a half a brain should understand that how fake most of it was.
Yeah.
And if you get to that point, then you start questioning some of the basic things you've always thought or knew about. And so you get to things like the flat earth. Okay, is it really round? Have I ever seen the curve? Have I done any experiments to see if there's a curve? I can go read about other people doing it, but I didn't do it. So how do I know? There has to be some way to differentiate between crazy conspiracy and falling for the same old thing that people keep falling for, you know? Mm-hmm. There's got to be a way to take that red pill without going nuts.
Yeah.
Especially for people who have been swallowing the red pill their whole life. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I think part of it lies in not necessarily questioning what seems obvious, but at least accepting that it could be wrong, you know?
Yeah. I guess that's a good. Yeah, there. You don't necessarily drop your trust in reality, but you can drop your trust in institutions.
Yeah, that's the big one, and which will eventually lead us to the Catholic Church, but we'll get there in a minute. But
yeah.
For example, the schools, you know, a lot of people grow up thinking the schools are everything. The public school system, that's what teaches our kids, and that's what helps them become adults. And you don't necessarily have to suddenly think that everything the schools are teaching is wrong, but at the same time, you can begin to question what they're teaching and why they're teaching it. Mm-hmm. And if you have evidence that schools are run by, say, communists, well, then you go where that evidence leads you. You don't discount it, but you don't jump in head first, you know?
Yeah.
If you look, the evidence is there. You can find evidence of things. I guess the problem with with blue pillars is that they look at a situation, they say, no, something like this, people would never stand for that. That could never happen. There would be blood in the streets if something like that happened. And then they get to a point where it's like, oh, wait a minute. It did happen, and there's no blood in the streets, and nobody even seems to care. But you got to that point because you looked at whatever evidence you were researching, you got to do the same thing on every single one of those other theories.
Yeah.
You can't just jump into every quack on the internet saying, well, these vaccines turn you magnetic, or they turn you, they change your DNA so that we're going to be transhuman. Which, I don't know about that one, but you have to do a little bit of evidence research and see what seems the most obvious if you forget what you always thought before.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think you'll get a long way towards being right about this stuff if you take the various, I don't know, whatever it is, the claims, the institutions who are making the claims, and you look at, okay, are they trying to set up structures that keep people from being able to just go and live their lives and do it the way they want to do it? Or are they trying to help people just live their lives and do it the way they want to do it, even if the way they want to do it might be a little bit wrong?
Yeah.
And what you find, if you just do that, it won't be 100%, but you'll get on to 90% correctness just looking at that.
Yeah.
Okay, this claim is being made, and it wants everybody to change their behavior, not because, not by some kind of conversion. They want everybody to change by conformity to some kind of this regulation, that regulation.
Yeah.
Put the mask on,
like
get the vaccine, fire everybody who doesn't have the vaccine, and so on. And the same thing with the whole transgender bathroom things. The same thing with the whole, the whole gay movement thing. Yeah, we need to force people to accept this. We can't let people just do it the way they want to do it. If they don't want to accept it, we can't have them having that option.
Punish them somehow.
Got to force people. When you're trying to force people to change through regulation, 90%, not 100%, that's the stories they're telling are the false narratives that you should discount.
Yeah. And, another part of this is not necessarily trying to find out the motive of those people. Because sometimes it just won't make sense.
They're because all the different people have different kinds of. It's like we said. There's just certain things about institutions that attract people of a certain mindset. But even though the mindset is the same, the motives may be very different from one person to another.
Right. Yeah. Like the whole push for the vaccine, which again we were early to point out that some of the things being said about the vaccine weren't true. Some of the things that were being said against the vaccine.
Right.
At the same time, we were kind of like, well, it's not something that seems to work, and it's for something that isn't all that dangerous.
Yeah.
We pointed that out from the start, but as far as, trying to force vaccinations on people, there is a group of people who are just making trillions of dollars on this. Mm-hmm. And most of them are bureaucrats who are trying to force everyone else to accept their medicine. But there are also mayors who might have a completely different motive. He's not necessarily going to make any money on the vaccine. He might just want a political backing from someone. Or he might know that a city's easier to push into something if they're scared. Mm-hmm. Or and the Karen down the street who's reporting everyone who walks out without a mask, she's not making any money on it. She's got a completely different motive. And all these people with all these different motives are all after the same thing. Force people to have vaccines. But there's no use trying to figure out why they're doing it.
Right. There's not a single why. And there's, like you said, they don't all gather in a meeting once a month and discuss how they're going to do things or anything like that.
Yeah. And a lot of people are just easily fooled And so they swallow pills wholeheartedly and never take the red pill.
Yeah,
so
I mean, to go back to the mayor,
they're just going to be like that.
The mayor actually might just really believe that it's the best thing. He's drunk the Kool-Aid, and but you know what? He's a politician, and the kind of people who become politicians tend to be the kind of people who want to control what groups of people do. Okay, not to an absolute person, but they tend to be. And so when you got a mayor who thinks, well, this is the best thing for people to do, therefore, I ought to make everybody do it.
Right. Yeah, and it's not
that's his motive.
Necessarily like he's thinking in the terms of, I'm going to be evil and force people to do my will.
Nefarious.
This is best for you people, and you people aren't as smart as I am, and I know what's best for you, so I'm going to force you to do this.
Yeah.
As if he's talking to one of his own kids, telling them not to eat cookies before supper, you know?
In fact, that tendency in the human race, the tendency that those who are, would want to do that are also the people who go into politics. That's why America has a limited government under a constitutional system. Right. The Constitution shackles the government.
Right. We wanted to, so, one of the questions, I ask this almost every week. Why are there people who are still eating the blue pill? Not necessarily people who are in power, but people just on the ground, your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they still convinced that this COVID thing is something they need to worry about? Or, things like that. And that's one of the hardest things for me to answer. I think that some of these red pills force you to act a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's it either. Sometimes I wonder if a person would be red pilled, but if they were red pilled, then they would have to admit that what they're doing, like walking around in a mask, is retarded.
It's stupid, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, all these, the gay flag, okay, that was, even if you're willing to admit, okay, not that many people are gay and they're not oppressed and it's a bad thing anyway, but then they would have to admit that they're acting stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That they're embracing something that they shouldn't be embracing, and they've been doing that for the past year.
Well, there's another aspect to this, and this actually goes back to the foundational kind of definition of the red pill, blue pill. What was the blue pill promise? Now, to understand this, let's see. It was in the first Matrix movie. You've got the one guy who was, I don't know if you remember this, he was the traitor.
Yeah, he wanted to go back.
He's eating a steak dinner. He's like, I know that this is all just, electrical impulses being jacked into my brain, but I love it. This is what I want to live. Okay, so that's like what would you call willful blue pill? But even without being willful about it, what is the blue pill? It's a slumber, a sort of blissful ignorance. It's a, okay, just kind of keep me without having to face difficulty as much as possible. As long as I can believe that, for example, the guy that I watch on the news is on my side. As long as I can just believe that when the FBI says that they've taken down a conspiracy, they're not the ones who caused the conspiracy. As long as I can believe that the Patriot Act is really preventing me from losing my life in another 9/11 incident, and so on and so forth, I'll just go along with everything, and I'll just live my life blissfully believing that all the things, all the mechanisms, all the institutions in the world around me are doing exactly what I think that they ought to be doing. I think to a lot of people, a huge number of people, the process of being red-pilled is like waking up at 3:30 in the morning and getting up for the day at that time. How hard is that?
Yeah, it's difficult.
When you don't need to be at work until 8. Who would do that? It's like, even if you planned for some reason, just as a matter of discipline, I'm going to get up at 3:30 this morning, and then it's like, I don't have to be at work till 8. That's 4.5 hours, and boy, I could use another 3 hours of sleep and still be in plenty of time. It's that. That's the mechanism, and so it's just so much easier to just close your eyes, drift back to sleep, and re-enter whatever dream got interrupted by your alarm clock.
Yeah. And this going back to the gay pride thing, the fact that we need to accept these people. Mm-hmm. I think we've pointed out several times that when you can accept this kind of deviation, this kind of perversion, mm-hmm. If it's okay to do that, there's a lot of lesser things that are okay also. You know?
Right.
The pornography that I look at every day, mm-hmm. or the affair I had on my wife, things like that. Well, they're not as bad because even having intercourse with another man, that's okay. So all these other things really they must be okay too. That's
kind of like that. That's the standard that says, sex isn't for what you've been told it's for. It's not for the purpose of having and raising babies in a family.
Yeah.
It's for your own personal pleasure. Well, then who's your wife to tell you not to go have pleasure?
Yeah. And it's not a hard pill to swallow.
Well, yeah. How many people would love to swallow that pill?
Okay.
Okay, yeah. That's a good point. And that's probably true of a few. We could probably think of some other things that are that way. It's like, okay, the thing that's being forced down your throat to say, hey, you need to accept this. If you do really accept it and say, yeah, this is good, this is okay, this is, the way it should be, then a whole host of lesser things become acceptable under that umbrella, under that rotation in worldview.
Yeah. And this is the point at which Catholics ought to be uniquely able to refuse the blue pill. Mm-hmm. Because we know that, maybe the world is accepting these people, or at least this behavior, and so that would make all these other behaviors seem okay, but we can't fool God, and God has already spoken on this, and he's not going to change his mind just because we're more tempted. So, as a Catholic, I have to kind of fall back on that. I can't swallow this blue pill because my religion says no.
Yeah.
And Catholics ought to be able to see this. And that's just for behavior things, but for things like the masks, the vaccines. One of the news stories today is this lady in, let me find out where this was. Texas. Lady in Texas, her son has COVID. He tested positive for COVID. Mm-hmm. She wanted to go to another testing site and have him tested again. So she put him in a trunk.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
Yeah, she put him in a trunk to drive to the next testing station. As a Catholic, you should never be fearing a disease that much.
Yeah, exactly.
That would allow you to treat a person this way.
Exactly.
That's not how we treat people.
Everybody's getting all over her about this. But you know what? If we accept the rightness of the lockdowns and all the other crap that's being, the forced self-quarantine, the stuff they're experimenting with in Australia. Right. If we accept the rightness of these things, then that mother's actions make sense and are even appropriate under this worldview that seems to be reigning in the whole COVID panic scenario right now.
Right.
It's like, hey, all of you people that are condemning this woman, your very views about these things justify her. It's we who are rejecting this whole panic thing. We who are rejecting the vaccine, we who are rejecting the masks, we are the ones that have the right to condemn this woman.
Yeah. If you look at COVID, the very worst thing it can do is kill you.
Yeah.
That's the very most it can do.
And if you're prepared...
Obviously, we want to avoid death. But if you're a faithful Catholic, it shouldn't be that scary.
Yeah.
You know, we go to war. We got cops out on the street who fight bad people. And
they get shot and die.
Yeah, and they go to work every day knowing that. And there's no reason to allow the fact that you might die to keep you from doing things that are right or even things that are normal and things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like going to a party.
For heaven's sakes, kids get run over by cars that are backing up because they don't see them. It happens. Death happens. Death. Everybody's going to die eventually. Death is a part of life. The worst thing COVID can do is cause you to die. And if you're a Catholic and a faithful Catholic, well,
that shouldn't scare you too much.
That's when you're on your way to heaven. Okay, you might have to go through some purgatory. But that's...
At least make it a reason to get in line with God, you know?
Yeah.
If you're going to be that scared of it, at least make it part of the inspiration to do good. And even to face down this scary thing called Corona.
Mm-hmm.
To earn merit. But it's weird how few Catholics see it that way.
Right.
It's almost scary how few Catholics see it that way.
People die in car crashes that they didn't cause, but we don't stop driving. People die in plane crashes. Not often, but it happens. We don't stop flying.
And we don't make everyone else stop flying.
Yeah, we don't ask everyone else to stop flying. People drown, and we don't stop allowing our kids to go to the public swimming pool.
Yeah,
live life.
If
you get the disease, stay away from people who would be vulnerable, to its worst effect. Stay away from old people.
Yeah,
but go live life. That's that the Catholics should be insisting on this, and they should be furious with any priests and bishops who are making the sacraments less available because of COVID. The more COVID threatens your life, the more the church should be making the sacraments available to you as a result of that.
Which brings us to the ultimate red pill. And I guess I was a little red-pilled by this. I just assumed that most bishops, certainly not all, but most of them, cared about their mission in the church, as part of the church, as shepherds.
And by mission, we mean saving souls.
Yeah, that's really their only mission, ultimately.
Yeah.
That's where it all ends up. And it never occurred to me that more than half bishops don't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or they think maybe they're here for some kind of social duties, or
they're administrators of the material work of the church or something.
Yeah.
They don't see themselves as shepherds of souls.
And this is where it's tempting to do what we talked about not doing, and to assign motives.
Yeah.
I don't know why these, say, child molesters were able to continue doing what they were doing. I don't know. But it did happen. Mm-hmm. We know it happened, and we can't deny that anymore. And I don't know why Pope Francis is against the TLM, but I know he is, and I know it's wrong. I know what he's doing is wrong.
Yeah.
If I want to say he's evil, or we've talked about it several times, a lot of these people are either evil or stupid. Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe even that's going a little too far and trying to assign something. But it's just trying to find a way to be all right with the fact that another person would do the things they're doing. But other than that, I don't know what they're getting out of it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, these bishops are losing money.
I don't know the reason, but what they're doing is wrong. Yeah. That's as Catholics, we ought to be able to say that. To say, I'm not going to judge their hearts and understand their motives. God doesn't give me that vision to be able to do that. But I can see what they're doing, and what they're doing is wrong.
And if you can say that, you apply the same principles in that, okay, you can't just discount everything. Not every bishop is bad, number one. Number two, you have to have something to start on. You have to have some kind of belief that is absolute, that doesn't get questioned in your mind. Or if it is questioned, until you get serious evidence to the contrary, you maintain your belief in. For example, Jesus Christ died and he rose from the dead and he allowed us to get to heaven. If I hold on to that, then a lot of the other things are easier to deal with, like the pedophile priests or the evil bishops or the Pope who is just out to get a holy way of worshiping. If I can keep in mind the death and resurrection of Christ and know that he didn't do it for nothing, he's not going to do it just so he can hide from the world. He promised us he would be with us. So I can be fine with the Pope doing this, knowing that I can still rely on God's church. It doesn't matter how bad the Pope is. The church is still the church. Right. And the church is headed by Jesus Christ.
Right.
Not by Pope Francis.
And you get to heaven by being a member of the church.
If you
regardless of how bad the men who are at that particular time in history who are ruling it.
Because if you allow yourself to get into the weird spiral that, that bishop or even the priest, the parish priest who I used to talk to, turns out he's a really bad guy. How many other good things did I depend on and are now I know that are bad, or now I have to question?
Yeah. You end up having to question everything. Well, the thing is this too, and this is the other thing that Catholics have the advantage of being able to believe in a certain way. The way you brought up the way, like, different people can all be acting in the same way, but with different motives, depending on their station of life and their backgrounds and that kind of stuff. And yet they all end up acting the same way. And it's tempting to ascribe like a group motive to them, even though there may not really be one. Ultimately, what it comes down to is original sin and the reality of human selfishness. But there's also another reality in the world as understood by Catholics, and this should be kind of a perpetual red pill for us, and it's the reality of Satan, the reality of the devil. The devil is not an abstraction. It's not a sort of fairy tale term, a mythical explanation for human selfishness or whatever. The devil is a person who acts in the world.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there are some things that look conspiratorial without needing to have similar motives or similar or like monthly meetings or anything, because the devil wants to destroy the church. The devil wants to pull people away from the church and destroy souls. And the devil will take this person's motive and that person's other motive and that third person's third motive and direct them towards a common end, which is the suppression or destruction of the church and of individual Christian souls. So when you think of it that way, it's like, okay, there really is a conspiracy, but it's not a human conspiracy. And as Catholics, we ought to have like I said, the luxury of understanding this and believing this, and that's how we can see that, oh, okay, yes, all of these things are wrong, and a lot of these things that we may have believed institutionally were on our side, they're not really. But that doesn't mean the whole fabric of reality is untrue now. That doesn't mean we go full QAnon, flat earth, or whatever.
Right. Or anti-Christian, because so many Christians have disappointed you.
Right.
Aside from holding on to some basic truths that you refuse to let go of, you do have to understand the difference between what the church teaches or what the church demands and what this idiot bishop who won't allow the TLM on Christmas Day demands.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This guy does one thing, it's bad. Well, but he's not the church.
Right.
He's just some guy in the church.
And he has authority.
You can't lose
within
faith
his
in the
diocese,
church.
whatever, and so on and so forth. It's like kind of like Jesus said during, he said, do what the Pharisees tell you because they are the interpreters of the law, but don't follow their example. Well, we're in that position with bishops.
And sometimes it's very difficult because
difficult.
The bishops are telling us, no, don't attend the better mass. Attend this goofy one where we, dance and receive communion on the hands and whatnot. But the bishop can't tell you not to be good.
Right.
That's the one thing you don't have to worry about. So if you got a really bad bishop, okay, you've got a really bad bishop. It'll probably change at some point. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't change, you still don't have to do the bad things he's saying. There are some things you have to do.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do the bad things. And, if Pope Francis eliminates the traditional Latin Mass in exchange for this weird, that's not united at all, this weird thing where everybody in the country's doing their own thing, except for traditional Latin Masses, it might be something we have to suffer through, but that doesn't discount the church. It just shows us how much is against the church.
Yeah.
And it shows us how good the TLM is that they will do anything to eliminate it. Mm-hmm. That should be more encouragement to continue as a Catholic, because the Catholic Church is what gave us the TLM. I guess now you get into things like, this SSPX and these little cults who have broken off, who said, well, we're still Catholic and no one else is. But Christ promised us a visible church, and SSPX isn't. Most people don't even know who SSPX is. So that's not, you can't call that visible.
Yeah, that doesn't quite meet it. And, just remember that the church is the source of holiness for us and for our priests and bishops. We and our priests and bishops are not the sources of holiness for the church. The source of holiness for the church is Christ, and the source of holiness for us and our priests and bishops is the church. So the more we cling to the church as the body of Christ, and accept his offer of holiness, the more holy we are. Well, the same thing goes for priests and bishops. They are legitimate priests and bishops even when they don't accept and cling to that holiness that Christ offers through the church. But the fact that they refuse to be holy doesn't mean that the church is therefore unholy.
Yeah.
Because they aren't the source of the church's holiness to begin with.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. And so it's, it's almost impossible not to be red-pilled on people like Pope Francis. Although there are some people who are still swallowing the Pope Francis blue pill. I don't get it, but okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
I don't.
It's like how can you look at Pope Francis and not see, okay, this guy is a force for division in the church.
Yeah, but that's, I get, but the thing is, there are less and less of those people. Mm-hmm. It's not like we have a majority right now. We don't, but it seems like every year there's more people. Yeah, the same way 10 years ago, most people didn't know that a Latin Mass still existed. And now it's still a very tiny percentage. But everybody knows it exists
knows still. About it these days. Yeah.
And it grows every year. Mm-hmm. No matter how much they try to suppress it, it continues to grow. So we know that this is God's church, and we know that it's growing, and I think we could have faith in that.
Yeah.
I don't think I have too much more to say.
No, I think I've said everything I want to say.
Okay. Well, let's talk about news.
All right.
Let's see. I got a 6.1 magnitude earthquake in Nicaragua. 6.6 earthquake in, this is Banten? In Java and neighboring islands. I think this is, no, I don't know where that one is. But there's also an undersea volcano in Tonga, close to Tonga. There's an undersea volcano that's erupted.
Oh, is it threatening people?
And not the government has warned about tsunamis, but they're not being reported yet.
Okay.
And there was another one. Where is it? The tallest mountain in the Galapagos Islands has also erupted.
Wow.
So there's all kinds of earthquakes.
Over the last week or so?
Yeah, this is all within 1 week. Let's see. So there's 2 volcanoes and 2 earthquakes.
2 earthquakes and 2 volcanoes. Huh.
Yeah. And the French are crazy. They voted 214 to 93 first to approve the bill that it transforms the COVID-19 health pass into a vaccine pass.
Oh my!
So everyone over the age of 12 has to have some kind of vaccine pass in order to enjoy any kind of public works. Then they went on to approve a bill that would bar any unvaccinated people from most things, any kind of public place.
Man.
So, but you know what?
There's something weird about this. I mean, the fact that because I mean, regular vaccines. Okay, if you get a job as a healthcare worker, they want to see your vaccine record. Kids in school, they want to see your vaccine record. But people aren't goofy about it with like passports and crap like that. There is just something off about this.
Yeah.
There's something evil here at work.
Yeah. And there's 100 different motives.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is a diabolical. This is a conspiracy of the devil on a invisible level. This isn't some monthly cabal meeting or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't have to look for someone to hold meetings. They've been preparing for this. Although some people have had meetings about this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah.
But not all these French senators. You know, they've got their own reasons for doing this. Let's see. So, Philippine president signed into a law a bill outlawing child marriage.
Okay.
With violators facing up to 12 months in prison. So and what they're basically talking about is mostly Muslims and some of the indigenous people marrying men to little girls.
Right.
But the weird thing is, the law won't go into effect for 1 year while they allow Muslim and indigenous communities to prepare for the law.
What does that mean? Just stop marrying little girls.
Isn't that sick? Yeah.
That's weird.
I mean, and I guess, instead of giving them some time to prepare, they should have done something like, okay, but if you got a 20-year-old man and a 17-year-old girl, you know, it's going to have different effect than a 18-year-old man and a 10-year-old girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why didn't they just kind of differentiate between in the portion of the crime?
So is it like just
instead of just
all marriages like for girls under 18 or something like that?
I didn't find out exactly what the law says, but it's kind of they don't differentiate between the severity of crimes.
That's weird. Because even in the United States, a lot of states it used to be that well, if you were whatever age, 18, a girl could get married
under 18. Yeah,
but if she was say 16 or 15. She needed her father's permission first, or something like that.
Yeah. And then for things like statutory rape, there was even some wiggle room there, where it's like, okay, an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old, that's not really rape or statutory rape.
Yeah.
And it was like, so what we'll do is things like there has to be a 4-year or more difference between the man and a woman before we'll call this statutory rape. But I might be wrong here. It doesn't look like they really did that.
Just all size, one size fits all kind of a law. Huh?
Yeah.
It could be that there's a real problem that they need to clamp down to prevent. But if that's the case,
I think there is.
Why are they letting it go on for a whole year then? That's what's weird to me.
I mean, so. Do you have a year to divorce your wife that you married last week? Or, you know what I mean? It's kind of bizarre. All right. So, 17 people are killed and 44 others injured as a fire spreads through a 19-story apartment building in New York City. You know, we see a lot of disaster stories about, like, earthquakes, bombs. We don't see too many fire stories about it happening in one building. You know, I mean, at one time, this was a common thing. A fire would go and then an entire building would suddenly be up in flames. You know, in Chicago, it like burned half the city down at one time because of the way the buildings were made. But this happened in the Bronx, in New York, and it was a 19-story apartment building that was apparently up in flames. So, you know, it's just kind of odd. That's why I brought it up. U.S. Mint announces that they have started shipping the first coins of American Women's Quarters program. So, we're issuing coins celebrating American women. Someone named Maya Angelou will be the first African American woman to be featured on a U.S. quarter. I think these are weird little ways to say this is the first for this to happen that really isn't all that big a deal. Like,
yeah.
Remember when they're bringing back NASA and we're going to go to the moon so that we'll have the first woman who lands on the moon.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's really not that big a deal.
They're kind of like fake firsts because they're planned, for example.
Yeah. But like we've got the first African American female vice president now. And it's like, so what?
Yeah.
We've had a black president. It's not...
That's true.
It's like just coming up with firsts, and I don't know. Oh well, they like making quarters and coming out with different special quarters, whatever.
So why that Maya Angelou? She was the one who did like the poem for the I think Clinton's,
I don't even know who she is.
She's a poet.
I've never heard of her.
Black poet, black woman poet, and she writes. I mean, I think her poetry is pretty dumb myself, but I mean, she did like the poem for like Bill Clinton's inauguration and
did she?
Stuff like that. It's like, but why not put Harriet Tubman or somebody like that if you want to get a black woman on a quarter?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of black women. Even, what's her name? Rosa Parks.
Yeah, Rosa Parks, for example.
Why not her?
Why not her?
Heaven's sakes. I don't know. Because I don't know why. Is Maya Angelou still alive?
Yeah, I think she is. Maybe that's it. Maybe they wanted somebody still alive.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. So that she can go out and give talks and say... And people can pay more money to have her come and read poetry at your whatever.
Yeah, your high school
Maybe she
graduation.
sells more books that way. I don't know. Russia and the U.S. begin a series of talks in Geneva to kind of diffuse tensions between us, Russia, and Ukraine, which doesn't seem to be dissipating. Talks between NATO and Russia over Ukraine hit a breaking point as Poland talks about going to war.
Oh, wow.
Vladimir Putin...
On Ukraine's behalf... I mean, not on...
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Putin is warning that Russia will cut all ties with the U.S. if we place any sanctions upon him. Which seems like a... I don't understand why that's a threat. Why doesn't Biden just say, well, so what?
Yeah.
Okay, cut all ties. Go ahead. You're the ones who suffer from that, not us.
Yeah.
And it seems like maybe it kind of worked because the U.S. Senate rejects a bill that would sanction the Nord Stream pipeline. I guess that's the pipeline between Russia and Germany.
Oh, that's going through. Yeah, okay.
You know what? Maybe I better... Nord Stream pipeline is Russia to Europe across the Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like the Senate's unwilling to stand up to Russia. Meanwhile, up to 70 Ukrainian government websites are attacked by hackers. I don't know. It's just one of those things we kind of keep a pulse on. But
well, that's actually for everybody who doesn't know this, my job is writing software for medical devices. I work in the medical device industry, and I write software under controlled design processes and so on and so forth. And one of the things that's cropping up now in medical devices as like a risk analysis is cybersecurity.
Wow. Yeah.
And so there was, and I didn't read about this specifically. I was talking about the guy at my company who is the one who is kind of like the main guy for the cybersecurity risk analysis stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said there was one of these what do you call cyber napping, that ransom cyberware kind of thing, ransomware things that infected these baby incubators
Wow.
And a baby actually died because the incubators couldn't operate because of this ransomware. And so this is the first actual human death as a result of cyber ransomware. It's a real thing, and it's going to become more serious as time goes on.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Well, geez.
And I think, it deserves a little bit more than Biden's wimpy, please don't attack these 16 sectors.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't make me believe that the FBI doesn't have a way to track these people. Not so much that the FBI knows who they are and where they are,
but
it's just that they're so incompetent that they're not doing what they need to do to track them. Instead, they're doing things like creating conspiracies and then busting the conspiracy and taking credit for stopping an attack, It's that kind of crap that, meanwhile, there are cyber attacks that end up killing human people. I didn't even know about that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, let's see, in Baltimore, Maryland, we did the first successful transplant of an entire pig heart into a human.
Oh, wow.
So, the whole, taking people's hearts while they're still alive and letting that scare people into not, into letting that be a deterrent into investigating the world of organ transplant could look at this and say, okay, as we get better at this, that's the kind of thing that'll happen.
We don't need
not growing people in order to take their hearts. It's growing pigs, which is easy.
Perfectly okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny
really neat
that it would be a pig heart rather than someone, because what's because I don't know if you've watched.
Well, we've been using pig valves for a while now, haven't we?
I didn't know that either. But like if there are certain shows like CSI shows and that kind of stuff, and it's like when they want to do like ballistics experiments or injury experiments with various kinds of objects and stuff, they will often use pigs because things like the muscle density, the muscle to flesh ratio, the bone density, and that kind of stuff is very similar between pigs and humans.
Yeah.
And
they do that on Mythbusters a lot too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. If they wanted to test something out, would this injure a person? Well, let's get a pig and see what it does.
Yeah. So now we're growing hearts in pigs.
All right. Well,
and I mean that stuff's going to get better and more sophisticated, and it's only good for people.
Good stuff.
The Nigerian government lifts its ban on Twitter. Remember, it was like last year they put a complete ban on Twitter because Twitter, I can't even remember what the crime was that they
probably had something to do with suppressing one of the politicians or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it was. So Twitter has agreed to pay an applicable tax and also establishes a legal entity inside the country.
Huh. Interesting.
So I don't know. I wish. I kind of feel like Twitter won this.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I feel like more should have happened, But, oh well. There's a story, the Union Pacific urges the DA to, and this is in Los Angeles, so in California, they're urging the DA to reconsider a directive dismissing misdemeanors on people who have been robbing the trains.
Okay.
So
people rob the trains. They get charged with misdemeanors. This California jurisdiction wants to dismiss these misdemeanors, and Union Pacific is saying, "Wait a minute, don't let them get away with this stuff."
Yeah, it's weird because when you look at our history, the fact that, we started these train tracks going all the way across the country, and then train robbery became a thing because it was like, hey, they're transporting goods on these.
Yeah. And out in the middle of nowhere, between cities and stuff.
Yeah. And eventually, the railroads got smart and said, let's hire our own security teams to deal with this kind of stuff.
Pinkerton got started and stuff?
Yeah. So it would seem like maybe some of these trains could hire their own guards to, of course, I think maybe they are, and they're catching people and they're not being charged.
Oh, that could be.
So I get, they showed this train yard in the picture. They show this, and I'll have a link to it, I think. They show this train yard that's just littered with garbage. And apparently what it mostly is boxes from places like Amazon and UPS being opened, discovering that they're either useless or not wanted, and then thrown out the door.
Holy cow.
So
that Amazon package
that's the kind of
that
robbery
never
that's
showed
going
up,
on.
And they eventually agreed to send you again. This could be what happened.
Yeah. And apparently it's a big spot in LA where it happens a lot.
Wow.
And they've caught people, and some of the misdemeanors don't have anything to do with robbery, but things like brandishing a weapon, let's see, attempt at prostitution, things like this. Huh. And it's like, okay, there's this whole crime industry here that seems to be growing up around robbing trains. Mm-hmm. And, Newsom and his team of idiots don't want to address it the same way they haven't addressed anything else in California that needs to be addressed.
Although, because the trains are sitting in the yard when this happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if that falls more under burglary than robbery.
Right. So I'm saying train robbery I'm just using it.
Oh, okay. You don't know that this
I'm
is
not. It's not actually train robbery.
Okay.
It is burglary that's happening here, but this is among other things that are happening.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there is robberies, like when they're caught, things like that.
Right.
So,
right. But yeah, I mean, if the train yards are, you could see that though. If the train yards are abandoned enough that you can get away with opening a box car and start going through boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that makes it a good place to.
I can see that happening.
Drug deals. That maybe makes it a good place to pimp some prostitutes, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, where was this? In Virginia, there is a judge who he's withholding sexual assault investigation reports and not allowing them to become public out of protection for the victims.
Okay.
But as you dig into this is not the victim, but the perp is a boy under the age of 18. And this is his second conviction. And I'm not sure. But it's starting to look like the real reason they're not allowing these investigations to be released is because it looks like it's happening in a case where a boy says he has to use the girls' bathroom, and then he goes in the girls' bathroom, and then he assaults someone.
So the real reason they're withholding it is because this judge doesn't want people to realize that the whole trans fluid gender thing is a big crock.
is a good way to put kids in danger, especially little girls.
Okay,
especially in a school. Apparently, this happened in a school.
Oh, wow.
If I'm reading this right.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's one of those. Okay, like we said before, you can't see the heart and what's going on in the heart of the judge, but you can see his actions.
Tell that he's doing something wrong. Yeah. And then we already talked about the Texas mom who put her kid in the trunk. Mm-hmm. Crazy. Chicago students organize a walkout So they're on strike. Chicago students are on strike. What they're demanding is 2 more weeks of remote classes, so a school shutdown. They're arguing something about reloading EBT cards. I guess since they weren't in school, and it's the government's job to feed these kids when they're in school, since they're not in school, they're going hungry, and they want food cards. And also, I guess some of these students got stipends, actually got money to not go to school.
Huh.
And, you know, I'm looking at these photos and reading the signs of these students who are all dressed up in their masks and you know, they're got signs that say something like, you know, no more students lost to COVID and things like that. And I'm like, are these kids really that dumb? What are you teaching them out in Chicago, for heaven's sakes?
You know what, Chicago? That's where Obama grew up, wasn't it? Isn't that where he went to school?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
that's where we got him.
Say no more.
I mean, just, you know, these kids are not at risk. They never were. So stupid.
You know what? It's funny though, because you know, my son is getting ready to get married. His fiance is from Illinois, but very southern Illinois, and so. And Illinois has been one of the more anti-smile states, and by that I mean they, you know, want everybody to wear masks everywhere and that kind of stuff. And so we were going to go out and travel there for a couple days, meet her parents, that kind of stuff. But we're kind of worried. It's like, you know, should we meet out there to, you know, because masks and all. We don't want to get into all that kind of stuff. And she said, well, you know, people down here, they don't really pay that much attention to it. And they were right. We didn't wear masks anywhere the whole time we were there, even though statewide, in theory, the mandate's there and everybody should have been wearing these masks and stuff. Right. And nobody was. And so it's like most of Illinois, as a state, as a geography, most of Illinois are just like real down-to-earth people. But for some reason in Chicago, where the whole population center of the state is, and therefore they get to control the policies for the whole state, they're a bunch of idiots, apparently.
Yeah, they're all insane.
Well, that's where that one mayor, that stupid woman mayor was, isn't it? What was her name?
Yeah. Lightfoot or Gordon? I don't even know.
Not Gordon Lightfoot.
Mayor Lightfoot.
Light something, yeah.
Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot's a singer.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember her name, but yeah, she's a nasty person. And she actually went to a funeral mass and under Supich received Holy Communion.
Oh, yeah.
Even though she's not Catholic and she's gay, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, and Supich,
speaking of Supich,
you know, Chicago. I guess.
Why do they call him Supich? That's not. I can't say that.
Well, that's how you're supposed to pronounce that name. I don't know. It's not American.
It's Cupich.
It's what?
Oh, it's Cupich.
I know, but everybody says Supich.
Why? That's dumb. Why would you make that a soft C? For people who haven't seen it spelled, it's Cupich, which every time his name comes up, I hesitate to, because I'm like, I can't.
It shouldn't be Supich.
I can't say it. Know, it's not supposed to be that.
But you know how people, like, it's, you know, like, for example, if you have a Polish name, you're going to use consonants in a way that you're not used to in America.
Inski. Okay. Well, look. Anyway. He's doing all kinds of terrible things. You know, he's oppressing the Latin Mass. He's putting all kinds of ridiculous rules on it, which is what the Pope wanted him to do. So,
he and the Pope are buddies.
Okay. He went to talk at the pro-life, some kind of pro-life march, and he kind of got heckled practically off the stage.
Really?
Yeah, people are. You can hear people yelling, you know, about the various inconsistencies with his with what he's saying. And of course, he starts talking about masks and immigration and crap like that.
And a pro-life rally.
What an idiot. We're here to fight abortion, you idiot.
What an idiot.
But again, it's like, I could not begin to tell you what his motives are.
Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever. Other than he's good friends with the Pope. If you do this, you get in good with the Pope. But the things he says are so nonsensical. Mm-hmm. There's just no telling what kind of motivation makes him do these things. But we can look at it and we can say this is wrong. You don't go to an anti-abortion rally and talk about masks and immigration. Yeah. That's not why they're there. That's not why you're there. And you don't try to stop people from worshiping God in the way that is most reverent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's wrong. That's evil. So, okay, I don't know why he's doing it, but that's what he's doing.
We don't know his heart, but he's doing evil stuff.
Yeah. That's all the news I got.
All right. Well, I got a few things. First is, I sent you an email, by the way, so that you can grab these links.
Okay.
This first one, okay, yeah. So the first one has to do with Ohio. So I don't know if you remember much. You and I went to Kitty Hawk in North Carolina.
Kitty Hawk.
That's where the Wright brothers made their first flight of a powered flight plane. Where we actually got.
I thought that was in Ohio.
No, they are from Ohio. That's why they call Ohio the birthplace of. But the actual first powered flight, was in Kitty Hawk. They even still have the 60-foot track there. We got, we went there. We got to see the track. But anyway, yeah, they're from Ohio, so they've birthplace of aviation, and so they have the Wright brothers plane. Now, here's the thing: I do have to admit that for most people who have never seen the plane itself and seen how it's supposed to be operated and how it was flown, they would not understand that this is incorrect. But Ohio claiming to be the birthplace of aviation and making that historical claim, the people involved with this really ought to have caught this. They have the license plate with a view of the Wright brothers plane flying a banner that says birthplace of aviation. The problem is the banner is attached to the front of the plane, not the back of the plane.
Oh, yeah, it is. I wouldn't know that unless somebody pointed it out.
That little part there that in our modern sense of airplane design, it looks like what we would think of as a tail section, but that's
right,
not. That's the
that
front
looks
of the
like
plane.
A tail. That's the head.
Yeah. And what the guy did was in that middle section with the big wings, he actually laid down in there facing that small section, and he was using levers to control it and stuff like that. And I got to see a model of the plane. But anyway,
I don't know. I might even have one of those
license plates. Yeah, hang on to it. That if they when it expires, you get the next one. Hang on to that. That'll be a collector's item someday.
Right, because of the bungle there. I wonder if they're going to change it.
Let's see.
I'll bet they're not.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. We are aware that the plane on the plate unveiled this morning. I must not.
No,
have
maybe you
plate.
don't. Then
I know. I thought I had something that said birthplace of
Since
aviation.
2030 and unveiled a new look.
We regret this mistake and have fixed the image. So they haven't actually made these plates
Maybe
yet.
they haven't actually gone on to cars or anything.
Correct design will be reflected on all new plates issued to Ohio drivers. I'm going to start looking for this.
See if you can
I can find some.
In
plates
fact, if you can, I would like if I saw one of those, I'd be like, "Hey, I'll pay you money more than it would cost you to get a new plate. Just claim it was stolen, and I'll pay you money."
Yeah. Here's the thing. We say things like somebody should have caught this, but this is just bureaucracy, and this is what it gets you. this is the kind of thing that happens in bureaucracies.
That's true.
Because
That's true.
bureaucrats are idiots, and there's thousands of them piled up on top of each other. Everything has to go through these filters, through all these different bureaucrats, and they're all idiots.
And every one of them says, well, everybody else approved it. It must be okay. Psh, yep, send it on.
Yeah. And they're all incompetent.
Yeah.
That's what a bureaucracy is. So it's not too surprising. And, of course, it's Mike DeWine, maybe, his parting shot as he hopefully gets voted out.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
All right. Anyway, good job, Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay, we have yet another guy trapped in a tight space story.
Where?
In Maryland, newsflash that, well, hold on. Shoot, my browser's popping up those stupid things that come up.
Yeah, that
okay,
little video.
A guy was stuck in a chimney. Maryland firefighters rescued a suspected home intruder over the weekend after the man got stuck inside a chimney.
Wait a minute.
The rescue happened Saturday.
I know we've talked about this.
We've talked about two different stories so far where somebody got stuck somewhere. One was a woman stuck naked between the walls of two buildings. Another one was a guy stuck behind a wall, like at a department store or something like that. I forget exactly.
Right, like in the women's bathroom or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A naked man stuck in a bathroom wall for several days.
Was this guy naked?
I don't think he was
Doesn't
naked.
say he was naked. Okay.
They Saturday morning at home in Silver Spring, Montgomery County, Fire and Rescue Service spokesman Peter Pringer said that they rescued a guy out of a chimney.
There's got to be an easier way to sneak into
the resident
house.
heard rustling coming from outside around 3:30 in the morning and called the police. The responding officers found no sign of an attempted break-in and left.
Wow.
An hour later, he heard moans coming from inside a wall, called them again, and that's when they found the guy.
Somebody help! I'm stuck.
Oh gosh, they had to tear this poor guy's house up to get this guy out.
Yeah, they had to break down the chimney. Who the heck's going to pay for all that?
Well, hopefully the guy that was stuck in the chimney.
Look, if he's crawling in through chimneys, he does not have the money to repay this guy for his... I would have said, leave him there, guys. I'm sorry. He'll shrink enough to where you can pull him down eventually.
That's right.
Just leave him there. His body will decay and he'll get smaller and smaller.
The whole Santa Claus thing they told you when you were a kid, guys, that was magic. He can't really get into a house that way.
Yeah, that's nuts. I don't even know. I mean, so seriously, if you go up to a chimney, if you think about what's at the top of chimneys, generally there's...
Yeah, they got the things
it's not a thing you could actually crawl into. Yeah. I mean, it's not that easy.
He had to push that stuff off just to get in there in the first place.
Right. And it's just...
And then...
Even for a big house, it's usually a narrow passage.
It's a narrow passage, and at the bottom of chimneys, it's not like it's just an opening all the way down, because there's a flue that often is like a slotted flue, so that you can open and close it and stuff. I don't know what this guy was thinking.
He didn't think this out too far.
But you know what? Not all chimneys have that slotted flue.
Yeah. Especially on older houses.
Well, not even. I don't know how old this house was. It wasn't an old house, but a house that I was renting up in Michigan. And completely inappropriate that we did this, but for a few weeks, there was a time when I had to be at work and Terry had to be at work, and we had one son who was being homeschooled, and there was like a few hours when it's like he's got to be by himself. Now, he was old enough to be by himself, but you know, he needed to be more directed as far as schooling and stuff goes. But anyway, but we would say, okay, do this, we'll check when we get home, and then we'll have evening, actual attention and that kind of stuff to your schooling. But he was home, and he called me, and now understand, I'm like 40 minutes from home when I'm at work. And he called me, and he said, he was like crying almost. He said, there's a big bird in the house. It's like, what are you talking about? He said it came out of the chimney, or out of the fireplace. So I drove home, and it was a duck. It
was a duck?
That had gotten down through the chimney and into the house.
Wow, a
duck.
That's insane.
I know, we call it the Santa duck.
Was it a big one?
No, it wasn't.
Did you eat it?
Well, it wasn't big. No, I just chased it out of the house. It wasn't big as ducks go.
Yeah.
But to a, how old was he at that time?
To a kid, I don't know. Which one was this?
This was
Danny?
No, this was my youngest. This was Jake.
Okay.
And he kind of has a fear of wildlife since then.
Yeah. I had okay. Here's a bird story. I may have already told this. I'm sorry if I've already told this, but if I did, it was a long time ago. So I get up. I'm at home. Vicky's doing other things. I'm at home with the kids. 3 kids. Sam, Gus, and Bella. Sam is still diapered. But, I come downstairs, and he's had one of those accidents that go both up the back and down the legs and pretty much everywhere you can think of. He needs immediate attention. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't even walk him up to the thing. I have to lift him and just trust that I'm going to be able to wash everything off my hands when I'm done. So I get him upstairs. I'm going to put him in the bathtub where I can take his diaper off and then tend to things. And I walk to the bathtub, move the curtain out of the way with my foot, and put him over the bathtub, and I'm about to put him down, and a bird flies up in my face.
Oh, my.
I'm like, oh, my gosh. Now I've got a kid. I'm still holding him, and there's poop on my hands.
There's a bird flying in your face.
The bird's flying around.
Oh, my.
And I was like, all right. I pulled a sheet out of the laundry basket and set him on top of the sheet. I said, don't you move. And I got another sheet, and I laid it on top of the bird so I could trap it.
Yeah.
And then I brought it downstairs, and I let it go, and I'm coming back in. I'm out of breath, and Bella's standing there. She's like, I think Sam had an accident. I said, yeah, I know he did, but there's a bird upstairs. She's like, oh, yeah, I saw him. I said, you saw the bird? I said, why didn't you tell me? She said, you didn't ask. Kids, you didn't ask if there was a bird in the house, so why would I tell you?
If there's a bird in the house.
You never asked.
All right.
Next time ask.
Morning meeting. Has anyone seen a bird in the house?
Is there a bird in the house? Or a possum or a kangaroo?
Is the house on fire?
Yeah. Is there a burglar in the chimney?
Yeah. Oh, my.
Oh, fun being a dad.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Next one. Oh, this is just kind of fun. Okay. Woke New Yorkers, and woke is in quotes here, in Palm Beach, Florida, were told to stay out of Florida in a series of flyers that prompted a police investigation over the weekend.
Okay.
Palm Beach police confirmed to Fox News on Tuesday that it investigated flyers that were stuck onto New York licensed cars parked on the wealthy island.
Flyers, like a brochure printout.
And the flyer read, if you are one of those woke people, leave Florida. You will be happier elsewhere, as will we. Poor grammar for what they're trying to say, but...
Yeah. Well, still.
Yeah, right message.
And they needed a cop to come and...
If you're a woke pansy,
investigate?
Get out of Florida. So I guess somebody was leaving them on windshields, under the wiper blades or something like that.
Yeah. It seems like a reasonable thing to do.
It does.
I mean, we don't want your kind down
here. You know what? If I see too many New York plates in my city, I might be tempted to do the same thing.
Yeah. I don't think it would be illegal.
It's,
maybe littering at the most.
It could.
But we've done that. We've
done
in the pro-life movement, we've gone to parking lots and just
put stuff on windshields,
put flyers on everybody's.
I don't know the legality of it myself. But
okay.
I know you're not allowed to put them in mailboxes. But the point. The point is the people who are here from New York. So I don't know. I might be tempted if I see a bunch of California plates too.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought that was just kind of apropos because, woke is one of those terms that was, depending on who says it, it's either a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like being red-pilled and stuff. All right.
Right.
Last item. I don't know. This guy may be a candidate for the Darwin Awards or something like that. But in North Carolina, a man climbed up the electrical tower. The ones that have the high tension wires, the super high voltage ones.
Yeah.
And once getting up there, it ended up causing a whole bunch of let's see. In fact, it says here it's carrying about 115,000 volts.
15,000 volts?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what the line is carrying. Okay.
115,000 volts on those lines. So he climbed up to the top. Well, so when rescuers got there, and I'll talk a little bit later in the story about something I'm confused about. But basically, for the safety of rescuers, they had to, say, well, we need to find some way to cut power to these lines. Well, that meant a whole bunch of people were having to do without power.
I don't even know if that...
I mean, they rerouted...
I wouldn't think that is even possible.
Yeah, they rerouted what they could. Yeah, it is possible.
Yeah.
They rerouted what they could to keep as many people supplied as possible, but a lot of people went without power while they got the guy down. A lot of people were upset, and some people, we are saving a guy's life here. We're talking about a guy's life, not just inconvenience.
Okay.
Well, but he is an idiot. Well, here's the part that has me like scratching my head. I'm going to read this verbatim.
Okay.
Officers spoke with the man for 4 hours before he climbed down from the tower without injury and was taken to a hospital for treatment.
What?
He climbed down? So
then why did we have to...
Yeah, he was able to climb down. Why were the
off?
Rescuers concerned at all? I don't get this at all.
Why was he up there at all?
Well, yeah, why was he up there? That's where the whole...
And why wouldn't he come down? Why did he think he needed help coming down? Was it one of those cases where, because I have a rule. If my kid comes, Dad, get me down from this tree. I say, hey, you got up there.
You get down.
Yeah, if you got up, you can get down. I'm not going to... If you can't get down, then you shouldn't have gone up. So you're going to have to stay there until maybe, I'll let it go for a while. Eventually, of course, I won't leave my kid in a tree. But generally, I don't have to do anything. Because they did get up there, and they can climb down, and I don't have to do it. But if you climb up a giant high-voltage power line... I would think it's not too big a deal to climb back down. It's not like... It
said he climbed down, and then he went to the hospital. What was he being treated for?
Why did he go to the hospital?
I don't know. It doesn't say what he was actually treated for. It says...
I mean, if you got shot...
It just says injuries. Or no, it says taken to a hospital for treatment. Doesn't even say what for.
If you got hit with 115,000 volts, you don't need a hospital. You're either dead or you're Frankenstein.
Yeah. Well, the wires are too far. He didn't get hit with 115,000 volts. The wires are too far apart. But
that's what but those wires are...
But...
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And, I've climbed one of those.
Oh, yeah, I know.
There was one at Carolyn's house.
Was that a high-tension power thing, or was that... I thought that was an antenna thing.
No, that was a high... I don't think so. You know what? I don't remember. I got pretty far up, and then I got scared, and I came back down. But I got up, and then I got back down.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
If you get up there...
It's like you just reverse it.
There has to be steps. Yeah. You're not a baby. Just climb back down.
That was so weird. But I just looked at the so you know, this is on Fox News website, and you know, these news stories. There's always, you can comment on them and something like that. So I just like glanced at the first comment. Guy says, a sweater I bought was picking up static electricity, so I returned it to the store. They gave me another one free of charge. And then the guy responded to that. He said, "What, WATT, were you thinking? I'm totally shocked." And another guy, I charged mine when I bought it.
I wonder if all the replies are of that nature.
Stuff,
yeah.
Now one guy's
I've gotten to where I don't even read comments anymore, because most of them aren't this lighthearted. Most of them are just crazy.
Yeah.
The comment sections of these news stories have gotten just nuts. There's just it's frustrating to read them, because it's like, this guy can't be that stupid.
Yeah.
But he is.
Somebody said,
but this guy was stupid enough to climb up this giant electrical tower and not be able to get down.
But eventually he did get down after the cops talked to him for 4 hours.
And if I were a cop, in order to get there to talk to him, that means you had to climb up there.
Well, yeah, because if you're talking to him,
you're not yelling.
You wouldn't be. I mean, you'd be able to use a bullhorn. He could hear you, but you wouldn't hear him unless it's over the phone.
Yeah. Maybe by that time it's like, just wrap a lasso around him and yank him off there. Like, dude, no, I'm not staying up here for 4 hours. It's scary. You're coming with me, you doofus. I don't know.
It doesn't really say anything about why he did it or anything like that. It just, you know.
Can you imagine being that guy? How embarrassing that would be.
Yeah.
I'd be embarrassed.
I would be really embarrassed. All right, that's all I got.
All right.
No more nonsense.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I do not have a saint this week.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I kind of sprung it on you that
put
we
it
could
together
record
at the
tonight
last minute.
Anyway, because we had missed a couple of weeks. It's like, when are we going to get back into it? So.
Yeah. So, but hopefully next week I'll have something. But I'm not making any promises, because I got a busy week ahead of me. But we will talk to you next week.
Absolutely.
God willing. And the creek water's not rising.
God willing, and the creek not rising.
Some guy used to always say that to me. But meanwhile, think about what we said, and as always,
circle the beans.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Baby, I got this morning.